Thanks for the Memories is an episode that presents the question, is it wrong to like an episode solely based on its last third? Because Thanks for the Memories' final act pretty much salvages the episode in my eyes, and makes the destination worth the journey. However, those first 2/3 of the episode do a lot of not great things and show some particularly unpleasant sides of Rainbow Dash's character. Now, the thing that I've noticed that usually sways the overall opinion of this episode is whether or not you're okay with all the ridiculous shit Rainbow does in this episode to stop Winter. And for me, the answer to that is a solid no. By doing all of that ridiculous shit, she could have injured or killed everyone in town. She nearly destroyed the weather factory. She possibly messed up the weather habits of other animals. She nearly killed Tank like 2 or 3 times. And for what? So she could play more with her tortoise that didn't want to play with her in the first place and just wanted to take a fucking nap? You know what this whole series of events made me think? Like, first thing I thought of? It wasn't, oh, I feel so bad for Rainbow Dash, she's so misguided and she's pushing away her friends. It wasn't even, wow, Rainbow's such a freaking idiot. She knows this will mess up Ponyville and she's doing it anyway. My first thought was, Rainbow Dash really shouldn't be a pet owner, because she has no idea what the hell she's doing. I mean, it's to the point where you could almost call it neglect. And this is kind of a long-running thing. I mean, she didn't get a pet because she loves animals like Fluttershy, or a stray just fell into her lap like Twilight. Twice. She got Tank just so that she wouldn't be left out of her friends' pet parties. I'm not trying to imply that Dashie doesn't love Tank. This episode shows that she would do literally anything for him. But if you get a pet, especially a pet that's kind of uncommon to have as a pet, and especially if you're someone who doesn't normally own pets, you learn about the pet to make sure you can make the thing happy. This is the case for having pretty much any living thing in your house, and Rainbow showed how bad she was at taking care of other living things. I shudder to imagine what would happen if she actually adopted Scootaloo. That would end bad. Also, yes, I know that Rainbow was going through the 5 stages of grief, and that means in the early part of this episode she was going through the denial and anger stages of that, but holy dog biscuits, they threw her off the deep end here, and had her go full jackass in that section. And come to think of it, all 5 of her stages of grief seem to be amped up to 11, besides possibly acceptance. I mean, how does Rainbow do denial? Man, my friend who knows everything about animals doesn't know shit about animals. How about bargaining? Honestly, what's the downside of destroying the concept of Winter? I mean, we keep saying Rarity's the biggest diva in the group, but we may need to take another look at that. But were the first 2/3 absolute unsalvageable garbage? Not really. There was a funny bit where those 3 Pegasi did a pony version of Who's on First, which was not only hilarious, but also showed the potential downside of a noun-based naming system. Glad they finally looked at that. And the song was pretty good, especially for it being Rainbow's first solo. The lyrics were a bit rough, but it was beautifully sung by Ashley Ball, and the rhythm and the pace of the song were absolutely fantastic. And in that regard, I'd rank it among the show's best songs. But to me, the pinnacle of this episode came in the final act, starting at the scene where Rainbow is moping in her bedroom with Tank, and Pinky walked through a wall. I have several questions, but I don't even care. First off, Fluttershy bluntly telling Rainbow that her Winter will be petless. See that? See that right there? That's some grade A character development. That's the good stuff. You know what, Yellow Horse? You aren't worst main 6 member anymore. Hop up to number 5 and enjoy yourself. You done good. Rainbow, you need to work on some things. And then there's the part where Rainbow, Fluttershy, Pinky, and Rarity all break down and start crying. And apparently AJ's too manly for that and cries on the inside. That sounds about right for her. Also, since this episode really didn't have a legit lesson besides turtles actually do hibernate, which is more of a fact than a moral, the moral that I took away from this is, if you're feeling bad, cry. You'll feel better afterwards. And you know what? Damn good lesson. Most shows find it necessary to make people look like babies for crying about stuff, because crying is for bitches and wussies and blah, 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 blah. But no, having a good cry helps you feel better afterwards sometimes. It's fine if you cry, kids. There's your moral. So overall, this episode averages a rough first half with a pretty good second half to make for an okay episode. Although it did raise a frick ton of questions. Wait, Cloudsdale actually moves? How is it a city then? But overall, I had a good time with this episode. I give it a 6.8 out of 10. Not bad, but Rainbow could have been a lot better.